I'm Jared.
I'm Marcus.
Level with us. Hello and welcome to Level With Us, the show where we have a cozy video game discussion every week. And I want to apologize, I've got a bit of a sore throat, so I'm going to make Marcus talk as much as possible this episode, and I'll just sit back and listen. Sound good, Marcus?
Easy.
Easy.
I love talking.
Why don't you go ahead and keep talking and tell our audience what game we're talking about this week?
This week we're talking about Tunic, which is an action-adventure game where you play as a cute little fox in a diorama, low-poly world, and kind of the central gimmick. I don't know if I want to say central gimmick, but one of the major parts of it is you find the game manual in-game, and you find it one page at a time. The only problem is the game manual is predominantly in a fictional language, so you have to kind of, in addition to getting these pages out of order, you also have to try to glean the information it's telling you just based on picture cues and other kind of logic.
That's right, so it's not just an in-game guide, it's also kind of a puzzle in and of itself, because you have to decipher it. There's only little bits and pieces that are in English, and you have to kind of infer things, experiment with things, and there's lots of like handwritten notes even on some of the pages that you kind of have to decipher for yourself what they mean, which I think is a really cool touch. I agree. I think the booklet is kind of what elevates this game to something I've never seen before. Because, you know, it's very much a Zelda-like game, like the original Legend of Zelda. And that game is not something I've ever beaten because it really needs a manual. Like, you really need it was designed with that in mind, that you'd be reading the manual, kind of piecing your way through it. Nowadays, you just kind of sit down and play it. You have to look up something to get through it. So I love that in this game there is this in-game guide that you unlock over time and slowly learn about entire mechanics that are there in the game the whole time, but you don't know until later. And I won't spoil them, but there's some very cool reveals that come from this booklet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that that's one of the primary things that makes this a really interesting, unique, and memorable experience is the moments where you either figure out something before you're supposed to or before it clues you in, and that's really fulfilling because the game is kind of like, sure, go for it. But then there are also those moments where you're like, oh wait, I could have done that this whole time and I didn't realize it. So both of those are very cool. Just also a note as far as gameplay goes, although it's very Zelda-like in a lot of ways, it also has some Souls-like influences. It's an isometric kind of Souls-like game similar to Death's Door. You know, like every hit matters. It's pretty tough as nails.
It's so Souls-like. I mean, like I said, it's like Zelda, but it's the game moment to moment. The gameplay is really like Souls, the combat at least. It's all about dodging and waiting and using your shield and letting your stamina build back up before you make another slash. You lose currency, which is also used to level up when you die, etc., etc. They take some big inspiration from that, and I will say, like the original Legend of Zelda, and also like FromSoft's games, this is a very difficult game. It's very cute looking and very disarming, but if anyone's interested in this game, be prepared. I think it will test you. Like, you can get through it for sure if you persevere, but there was a few bosses in particular, as well as just some regular, I guess, stop points with enemies that I died many times trying to get past, but I did eventually. What about you? Was it as hard for you as it was for me?
Yeah. Yeah, there were certain enemies where I just sort of hit my head against the wall. I was like, I'll just keep on doing the same thing over and over again, and eventually it'll work. And it did not. I'm also just the kind of guy who's like, I'm just gonna button mash. I don't want to like have to think too hard. But it was fulfilling when there were certain bosses. I haven't beaten the game. It sounds like you have. Do you feel like it continually surprises you and does unique things throughout? Or would you say that there's a bit of a lull late game?
No lull. I mean, okay, so later in the game, after you've done the first ending, or right before you've done it. Basically, just like a Zelda game, you have to collect certain things to unlock the way forward. And then, there's some boss encounters, some story moments. There's a very cool kind of genre-bending moment midway through the game, I'd say. But then after that, in order to get the better ending, I guess, or whatever, the 100% ending, there are some really, really obtuse puzzles. There are some puzzles that require knowing about certain things in the manual. Like, it's really hard to talk about, because once you find out about a very particular thing, you realize the whole game opens up even more to you. And so in that way, the ending of the game, there is a lot to do, but at the same time, it's a little overwhelming. I felt pretty satisfied after I beat the final boss for the first ending, so I wasn't really totally ready for everything that comes after, but I do want to finish the game for sure. I think there's enough really interesting stuff there to keep going. So yeah, I will say that's another thing to keep in mind, is that the end game is also pretty intense. I had to pull out a pad of paper for multiple little puzzles, and some of them are like bonus stuff. And oh boy, this might be a spoiler, but I'm going to say it anyway because I know it'll make you excited, Marcus. There is an entire ARG baked into this game as well.
What? Nuh-uh.
Yes, there is. And it's not even like the fans haven't even figured it out completely yet. So I think, and that kind of, if you don't know what an ARG is, you can look it up. But I think that kind of speaks to the direction that these guys were taking this game in the first place. Like, the story is very Monument Valley or Fez-like in that it's kind of
obscured. Yeah,
it's a little vague. It's a little, it's not as straightforward as you'd think. But there's, a lot of cues. There's some story moments, and then the booklet kind of shines a light on certain things as well. And I think that's kind of how they approached everything in this game, is they just want you to figure it out as you go. And I appreciate that. As someone who hates looking up stuff online for games like Dark Souls, I couldn't get through it without learning certain mechanics online instead of in-game. I loved that this game wanted you to learn in-game how certain things work. And yes, it was frustrating a few times, especially when I just could not figure out how certain things worked. But I much prefer that to just being obtuse just for the sake of being obtuse.
Yeah. Hey, for my star piece, can I talk a little bit more about the manual?
Yeah, we can do star pieces right now. This is the part of the show where we talk about... Actually, will you please explain it? I'm dying here.
I can tell. Star pieces is where we highlight something we liked about the game, either a detail or a mechanic or something that made us smile. So what I was just going to share for my star piece, we've already mentioned the in-game game manual, but there are just a few specific things about it that I really dig. One is I can tell that there was a lot of care put into the formatting and illustration of this booklet. It's not just like paragraphs of text. It's like very visual-based, iconography-based, and it feels like it's harkening back to a very specific experience that some older folks have, which is buying a physical game manual. I feel like that is less common today than it used to be, but I think you and I both have had the experience of having the official or the unofficial Prima guide for a video game and, going through it for difficult parts. So I just love how it harkens back to that experience.
It was pretty nostalgic for me to find some of the pages, like how the controls work and stuff like that. It reminded me of when we were kids, we weren't allowed to play video games on Sunday, so we would just pull out the manuals for them and just flip through those and dream about the day we could finally start playing them again. So in that way, this game was a little nostalgic for me.
Yeah, and then additionally, this isn't just in the manual, it's everywhere in the game. The fictional language in this game, I dig, in the sense that it's fun to look at, it's visually appealing, and it fits, I think, well with the rest of the aesthetic of the game. It's kind of like hexagonal based, in its angles, very geometric. And I don't know, I just sort of have a soft spot for fictional languages or codes in video games or other media, because it's just a cool world-building tactic that really adds kind of a sense of mystery and sort of a lived-in-ness to the world.
Yeah.
So it makes me want to make one too.
Well, my star piece is kind of related. In the same way that this game reminded you about looking through manuals and help guides for video games, this game reminded me of something called Playground Talk. And that's where you'd go to school and you'd tell your friend, oh, dude, did you know that if you do this specific cheat code, you unlock all the powers for this one game? Or, oh, hey, I just found this secret in Pokemon. Like, have you been to this area?
A lot of these details were spurious in nature in my experience. Like, no, you can totally do this if you do that, and it would, like, not work.
Oh, there was for sure a share of false myths, too. Like, oh, you can
Rumors.
get Mew under the truck, or, you know, in Pokemon Red and Blue. But for me, and Breath of the Wild did this a little bit too, because I would like meet up with friends and be like, oh, dude, did you know that you can do this with the mechanics and stuff? In the same way, my coworker played through this game at the same time as me, and it was really fun to go to work and be like, hey, so did you get the hourglass item yet? And he's like, what? Where is that? I'm like, oh, it's just in, you know, this area. He's like, I completely missed that. Well, he's like, well, where are you in the game? I'm like, oh, I've only made it to the first boss. And he's like, what? I'm way far ahead of you. And I was like, oh, well, I'm kind of stuck. Can you help me? And so we would just go back and forth and trade information. And it was really fun to be like, oh, you didn't know about this? Here, you should look this up. Or, oh, hey, yeah, that part's easy. You just got to do this. And it kind of made me feel like a kid again, learning about certain mechanics and how we progressed through the game. I actually went to a late game area way earlier than I was supposed to. And so kind of our routes, I wouldn't say the game is non-linear, but we both took very different paths at the very start. So that's my star piece, is that this game really encouraged that, because of how it doesn't just outright tell you how certain systems work.
Very cool.
But for every star piece, there is also a quick jab. But before we get into quick jabs, it's time to hear a word from our sponsor. Hey, you down there.
Who, me?
Yes, you. Do you want to know the best places to pre-order video games?
I sure do.
Do you wish you could know what the biggest games are coming out this year?
Uh-huh.
Do you want to know where and when to buy things so you're always getting the most bang for your buck?
Yes, and yes.
Then I've got the perfect website for you, octopusdeathpunch.com. OctopusDeathPunch.com not only boasts one of the coolest names in all of video game websites, but it also is your one-stop shop for knowing the best place to pre-order games and get the best bonuses for those games. It has a video game release calendar that I personally have used many times, and it's been really helpful for helping me know what titles to look forward to this year and what games to cover on the show. But it also has articles with recommendations based on your specific gaming tastes. So go ahead and try Octopus Death Punch today.
Gee willikers, mister. I'll do that right now.
And on that note, let's get into quick jabs.
And jab.
My voice is reaching its limit. Please explain, Marcus. Please tell us what quick jabs are.
It's a jab, but it's a quick one. It's something that maybe annoyed us or was subpar in our play experience, but we don't complain that long because it's just a quick jab.
Normally, I don't like quick jabs that are, I wish this was in the game. I usually like it when it's something that's already there that could just be better. But I do wish there is something in the game that is not there. And that is, I wish there was some sort of memo function. Because, you know, as cool as it is to pull out your own sheet of paper and jot things down, there are like a couple checklists in the in-game manual that I really wanted to check off physically myself. As well as notes I wanted to put on maps, or even like markers or stamps, like most modern video game maps, where I could just, you know, put something down to remember to come back to it later. So even though this game encourages you to look at this beautifully designed manual with these wonderful illustrations and handwritten notes on those illustrations, I wanted to make my own notes as well. So if that's something the developers were ever interested in updating their game with, that would be much appreciated from me.
Fair point. I almost wish you could, like, buy a physical manual with the game.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
It would remove the purpose of the whole, like, finding it incrementally.
True.
But also, I would just sort of like to own the manual. It's cool enough that I would love to have it be a part of a collection.
Absolutely. Or at least, like, give the option to people who could, you know, beat the game first and then buy it. Or someone who wants an easier experience. But anyway.
My quick jab is nothing against the game. It's just something I want to whine and complain about, which is I struggled so hard figuring out how to get my controller to work for this game. I don't know if it's my controller's deal or something about Steam or if something about this game specifically. But basically, like, it worked at first, and then my joystick got, like, serious drift where it, like, wouldn't even go left. I could only go right. So I was like, all right, I might be able to play a part of the game only moving right. Obviously, that was not possible. So then I used the D-pad, and I mapped the D-pad to be WASD. But the problem was when I used the D-pad as WASD, that meant that whenever I pressed those keys, it was like, oh, you're in keyboard mode. You're not in controller mode. This is not actually super interesting to listen to, I'm sure. But basically, I spent a few hours. It made the hard parts even harder because I would be like, okay, I'm gonna like dodge roll and then slash. And then my controller was like, how about you don't do that? How about the buttons switch functions? That sounds fun.
Have playing Russian roulette with your buttons does not sound very fun.
That's exactly what it was.
Well, sorry that your controller was garbage.
Yeah, if anyone wants to fund a new one for Marcus,
go
so he doesn't whine anymore.
Marcus needs a new controller.
GoFundMe, yeah.
Well, we have just enough time for our final segment of the day, and that is Who's the Fake Fan?
Fake fan?
Marcus, please explain this one.
Sure thing, Jared. I'm feeling a little one-sided with these explanations here.
Hey, now you know how I feel every other week.
That's true. Yeah. Who's the Fake Fan is the quiz portion of the show where we try to stump each other with nerdy trivia questions.
Perfect.
Yep.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Trivia questions. I'll start with mine if that's cool.
Please do.
So I played this on my laptop, and whenever the window pops up, you know how in like the top left corner of the Mac it'll like tell you what the program's name is?
Yes.
So this game, it tells you in the top corner, if you're playing in like on a computer, what the game is called. It was not called Tunic, and upon looking it up, it's called what the working title of the game was. And I don't know if that's an intentional thing or if that was just sort of left over from a previous build of the game. But I have a few options here of what this game was originally titled.
Interesting.
At least in development.
All right.
And this is the title that popped up in kind of my browser or on my computer. Was this game called Hidden Secrets, Secret Legend, Hidden Legend, Secret World, or World of Secret Legends?
This is way too many.
I'll try again. Hidden Secrets, Secret Legends, Hidden Legends, Secret World, World of Hidden Secret Legends. How's that?
Yes, the answer is yes, all of those. The game is all about secrets. Is Hidden Secrets one of the options? Was that the first one?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that. I'm just going to say Hidden Secrets.
No. Sorry. The title is Secret Legend.
Okay, that was my next guess.
Oh, good.
So they never changed the file name, huh?
Either that or maybe like there's some sort of meta in-game thing where it's like, oh, the actual game you're playing is secret. I don't know. I think it could still be intentional, but I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I guess I'm a fake fan of this game, but I really did enjoy it. My question for you is actually more of a challenge than a question. And it might be a challenge that you've already completed. And here it is. Marcus, have you found the changing rooms in the game?
No.
Okay.
Does that mean I lose?
Not yet. So my challenge for you is I want you to find the changing rooms in this game. It's a secret area, where you can change your appearance. And I want you to discover that and then comment on the YouTube version of this show after it's posted and put exactly how many days it took you to find it.
Okay.
So you've not necessarily failed yet, but if you comment on that video years from now saying, oh my gosh, I never did this, 2 years and 6 days, then I'd say you have failed.
Okay.
But if you can post on our episode, it doesn't have to be as soon as it goes up. Just whenever you find it, I need you to comment that. And people can look up the YouTube version of our show and see for themselves just how well you did. Sound good? Sound fair?
Sounds interesting. I guess this trivia will be in limbo for a while yet, and we'll check back on that.
It's not too hard to find if you are observant of the map pages. I will say that.
I'm excited to try to find it.
Okay. Let me know how that goes.
Well, Jared is slowly dying. It's been very fascinating to listen to, but all that said, it was still very fun talking to you about this game, Jared, and I look forward to talking to you or maybe your ghost next week.
Absolutely. And once again, a very special thank you to octopusdeathpunch.com for sponsoring this episode.
Go punch an octopus today.
Please do. For them.
That can be our new tagline. I was like, I'm Marcus, I'm Jared. Go punch an octopus in the face. Good night, everybody.
My apologies to the listeners. I promise I will be in better health next episode. Until next time, I'm Jared.
I'm Marcus.
And we'll level with you then.
Star Pieces is with... Well, Jared, it was a lot of fun playing this game with you, even though talking about it seems to be slowly killing you, which is very sad for everyone to hear.
I'm on my last legs. Please go on without me.
You will be remembered.
Don't forget about me. When you replace me, Marcus, choose a worthy successor.
Well, I'm off to go prepare Jared's grave and eulogy, but until then, I'm Marcus.
And I'm dying.
And I'll level with you alone next week.
Goodbye, everyone.
I don't love this. Let me try again.